What's happening, everybody? It is Sam Oshtry solo hosting in the seat by myself today. Picks and roll on Fox Sports, The Gambler, and iHeartRadio. Brace is at the Creator Classic down by Truist. The Truist Championship taking place this weekend over at the Cricket Club in Philadelphia. Amazing tournament that's going to go on. Sean Brace, you're going to hear all content from him today. Live show there on Friday. Throughout the weekend, Fox Sports The Gambler has you covered with the Truist Championship. But today, I'm solo hosting Picks and Roll, and we have a lot to get to with another wild night of NBA action and previewing tonight's games. These playoffs have been bananas. Some of the best playoff action from the first round to now early on in the second round that I can remember in years. And first from the Aaron Gordon buzzer beat or game winners to Tyrese Halliburton last night to the Brunson buzzers to competitive games all around, where you didn't used to see this type of competitive atmosphere every single night in the NBA. But now every single NBA matchup is must watch. And you didn't have that for years. And there's one guy who deserves more credit than anybody else for the competitive balance and the parity that finally exists in the NBA, which is producing these awesome playoff atmospheres and playoff games. And that's Adam Silver. Adam Silver is the guy who deserves credit. This was his goal with the collective bargaining agreement, with the second apron, where he made it so that super teams became extinct. There was no way you could acquire a guy like Kevin Durant and it would make sense or work financially. Now with the second apron, you're seeing a team like the Celtics, who I don't even think the Celtics are necessarily a super team. I think they're beatable. We certainly saw how they're beatable in game one. But a team like the Celtics, even, who has a loaded roster, definitely the best roster in the NBA, in the top 5 or 6 in the NBA, no doubt, which is why they're the favorites to come out of the East and the defending champs. But even a team like that, a team like the Celtics can't sustain that roster moving forward. Like, there's already been reports that guys like Drew Holiday or Kristaps are going to be traded because it's just not viable with the money those guys are making. They're going to exceed the second apron, and there's consequences for paying guys that much that are going to mess up your long-term future. So the new collective bargaining agreement, the second apron, yeah, it's complicated to make trades. It's difficult to understand when you really look into the gritty details of it, but it's also created this new version of parity in the NBA. And I never really was buying the ratings were declining, the NBA was dying, all that stuff. But it's interesting for me because I was always of the mindset that dynasties create higher ratings. And when you look at the top 10 or the top NBA finals over the last couple decades, it was Cavs and it was Warriors. It was the Warriors dynasty drew eyeballs. But what it took away from was great first round matchups and second round matchups when the championship and who were going to be in the finals was already a foregone conclusion. So now you finally, the talent level is so high in the NBA, it's higher than it's ever been, but it's more dispersed than it's ever been too. So you finally have this parity that exists in the NBA, which you haven't had in a while. So that's why these playoffs have been so awesome. And again, Adam Silver is the guy that made this happen. He wanted parity, he got parity, and now we just saw the highest rated first round in 20 years, I believe it was. So far, these playoffs have been awesome. So let's dive into it. We're starting with last night's action. Pacers, Cavs. Another wild game. So Pacers win 120-119, a game that the Cavs really controlled most of the way. Cavs are down 3 starters. No Darius Garland, who missed game 1, no DeAndre Hunter, and no Evan Mobley. There was concerns that those guys were going to miss game 2. They didn't show up to shoot around, and then a few minutes before tip, it was announced that those guys are out. So Cavs are down 3 starters, but they honestly controlled most of the game, or up for pretty much wire to wire, you could say, for that game until the final stretch. First things first, I haven't always been the biggest Tyrese Halliburton fan. He has been incredible this postseason. Like, forget what he's done in the clutch, which we've seen time and time again, how awesome he's been in the clutch, including hitting a game winner last night. What he's done as a passer and his ability to read defenses, it's every single year it's gotten better. To get 2 feet in the lane, have the defense kick, and have the defense crash, and constantly make the right play time and time again. He's shooting the ball well. He is the Pacers play with a ton of pace. He is the creator of that. Like, he is the reason they play with a ton of pace. He deserves all the credit for just his clutch play. Like, I have nothing bad to say about Tyrese Halliburton in this moment, because and it really does feel like that survey that came out that said that Tyrese Halliburton, this was a survey when 1/3 of NBA players were polled. And the players themselves said Tyrese Halliburton was the overrated player. And I was going, thank you. Finally, we're seeing the other people say that and admit that Tyrese Halliburton is an overrated player, because I've been saying it forever. And what really pissed me off was the USA snub with Jalen Brunson, where there's no way you could justify giving Tyrese Halliburton a spot over Jalen Brunson, who had been on Team USA's before. So did Tyrese Halliburton, but Jalen Brunson's the better player, still is. But especially after last season, I didn't understand how Tyrese Halliburton got that final Team USA spot. That was what really kind of drove it for me. I know it's politics when it comes to Team USA. It's more politics than really who's the best 12 best players or who's the 12 best team guys on a team. But that's what drove me to be like, Tyrese Halliburton is become incredibly overrated. Yes, he had his first All-Star appearance last season. He's become incredibly overrated. But what he's done this postseason has been, and really the last 4 months of the season, where the Pacers have been awesome after struggling for the first 2 months, where Tyrese Halliburton didn't look good. He didn't look healthy. He deserves all the credit in the world. He's been awesome. But here's what I have to say about the Pacers. 2 things can be true. The Pacers are really good. They're a really good basketball team. They play an unselfish, fast-paced brand of basketball. They share the ball. They lead the league in passing, both in the regular season and playoffs, just in terms of passes per game. So that's true. The Pacers are a really good team. They've also benefited from absurd luck over the last 2 playoff runs, and they aren't an elite team. What I mean by an elite team is a top 6, 7, 8 team in the league. And when you go through it, Celtics, Cavs, healthy, Knicks, the 4 or 5 top teams in the West. Pacers aren't an elite team. So this is now consecutive, assuming this series is over, which we'll get into last night's game, but the injuries do not look good, and they're already down 2-0. The Cavs are already down 0-2 going on the road. It would have to be an all-time collapse from the Pacers for them to lose this. So assuming, we're going to talk now like the Pacers have advanced to the conference finals. So assuming they've advanced to the conference finals at this point, up 2-0 on the Cavs, they're in rarefied air to make consecutive conference finals appearances. And I don't think they're going to make the NBA finals, whether it's Knicks, Celtics, probably Celtics. I don't think the Pacers are going to make the conference finals, the NBA finals. But it's rare to make back-to-back conference finals appearances. Like when you look at those streaks that happened, it was those Heat team over the last couple of decades, those Heat teams with LeBron, those Cavs teams with LeBron, those Warriors teams. Other than that, those dynasties that we really had, LeBron in of himself was a dynasty, and of course the Warriors dynasty, pre-KD and then with KD. Those teams are really the only groups over the last 2 decades that have made consecutive conference finals appearances. And of course, they went on to make consecutive finals appearances and consecutive titles. Some of those teams won. But it's rarefied air. So when you look at these teams that have made consecutive conference finals appearance, you usually are an elite team. The Pacers are by no means an elite basketball team. Very good basketball team, really good. They've benefited from absurd luck over the last 2 seasons, and last 2 playoff runs. And let's go through. It started last year against the Bucks. Giannis doesn't play the entire series. That's one of the best players in the NBA. Wash of a series. Of course, Pacers advance. Next series, they play the second round against the Knicks. Knicks are up 2-0. OG Anunoby goes out. Series completely shifts. You could make an argument he was the second best player behind Jalen Brunson on that Knicks team last year. Series completely shifts. Pacers end up winning in 7. OG tries to come back for a game 7. I believe it was his hamstring. He could barely move out there. Then Josh Hart was also hurt that series, but he toughened it out and played. Jalen Brunson hurts his hand in game 7. He leaves that game early. So benefited from absurd luck. And then the Celtics come around. The Celtics, they had really some competitive games against the Celtics, but obviously Celtics handled that in 5. Now we go to this season. They play the Bucks first round. They probably would have beat that Bucks team anyway, fully healthy. But Dame doesn't play game 1, recovering from blood clots, hadn't played in a month, comes back, doesn't look like himself because he's probably coming back a little early from blood clots compared to how those injuries usually progress. And then Dame tore his Achilles. I thought the Pacers were probably the better team, and they were favored in that series anyway. But again, no Dame for most of that series is a big deal. Like that is benefiting from absurd injury luck. And now they play the Cavs, who are without Darius Garland game 1. And I'll explain to you, we'll get to in a second, how much that has impacted the Cavs. And then game 2, they're down 3 starters, the Cavs. And the Cavs still should have won that game for an epic collapse where they couldn't get rebounds on free throws. The Cavs still should have won that game down 3 starters. So when you look at these last two playoff runs, every single series, the opponent, the Pacers the opposing team, the Pacers opponent has been down one of their top two or at worst top three players for significant portions of the series. That is absurd injury luck. I don't want to hear, oh, he's hating on the Pacers. He doesn't like Tyrese Halliburton. This isn't hating on the Pacers. It's pointing out that two things are true at the same time. That the Pacers are a really good team, but teams who make consecutive conference finals are usually elite. The Pacers are not elite. They have benefited from absurd injury luck. All right, let's break down last night's game. So all-time collapse from the Cavs. And again, they haven't just benefited from injury luck, the Pacers. They benefited from two collapses over the last three games that they've played. Of course, they were up 7, or they were down 7 with like 36 seconds left in that closeout game against the Bucks. And they blow that one. And of course, that was with the John Halliburton comes out, is in Giannis's face, and too bad John Halliburton isn't catching this series live, at least, but because of that incident. But now the Cavs are up 7 last night with 1:06 to go, and what it came down to was free throw rebounding. Free throw rebounding. The Cavs couldn't get rebounds on free throws. Cavs are up 7 with 48 seconds left. Pascal Siakam's on the line. He misses the free throw. Aaron Nesmith, to his credit, phenomenal play. Comes running in he wasn't even on the free throw line. He comes running in from the 3-point line, beyond the play, right by D-Mitch. Donovan Mitchell completely unchecks him. And to Andrew Nembhard, he's not going to get the credit for this play. It all goes to Aaron Nesmith. But Andrew Nembhard also came in sprinting from the 3-point line to put pressure on the Cavs rebounders and also created that opportunity, you could say, for Aaron Nesmith to get that insane putback jam where he just was on Donovan Mitchell's head. Puts that ball on Donovan Mitchell's head. Donovan Mitchell is twirling on the floor after because of the poster that Aaron Nesmith put on Donovan Mitchell. So he just comes running in from the 3-point line, slams it on Donovan Mitchell's head. An incredible play, just a winning play from a winning player. Like Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard, those two guys are winning players. Tyrese Halliburton gets the credit for the box score stuff and the clutch performances. But Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard are winning basketball players. And they're a big reason why the Pacers have had success over the last 3 months. So he slams it on D-Mitch, bodies him. He's twirling on the floor after. That play completely, it was less than a minute to go, but completely changed the momentum of the rest of the game. Because now free throw shooting, rebounding woes for the Cavs come up again. Again, Halliburton, the Pacers are down by 2 with 11 seconds left. And the Cavs, all they have to do is secure a rebound on a free throw. Free throw rebounding. They can't do it. Miles Turner tips it out to Halliburton, they're down to the Pacers. Halliburton does his clutch magic, step back. We know the rest. The Pacers pull out a 120 to 119 win, take a 2-0 lead. 2 wins on the road. Now they're heading back to Indiana, to home with a 2-0 series lead. So the question is, can the Cavs come back? Can the Cavs come back? So here's where the optimism is for the Cavs. The Cavs are shooting unbelievably poor from 3 in these first 2 games. 23% from 3 in the first game, 28% from 3 in game 2 last night. This is one of the second best 3-point shooting team in the league during the regular season. They shot 38% from 3. But part of that is because of who they're missing. Like Donovan Mitchell has had to do all the creation himself. Him and Darius Garland came to really complement each other really well as secondary and primary, Donovan Mitchell is the primary creator. Darius Garland is the secondary creator. He creates shots for other guys. So when they're saying, oh yeah, when I'm saying that they're not shooting the ball well from 3, it's because they're not getting as good looks because their secondary creator, Darius Garland, who's brilliant at getting in the lane and creating shots for other guys, he's been out. And who knows? We don't know if he's going to come back. It's a toe injury. You would think, oh, it's a toe injury. It's probably minor. It's probably pretty major, especially defensively. He's already not a great defender. They're going to attack him relentlessly defensively. So the Cavs might think it's not even worth it. Where if he's not going to be that much of a negative defensively, his offense might not even worth it. I think it's worth it because they need secondary creation. They need guys to generate shots for others other than Donovan Mitchell because he's had to do it all right now. But part of the reason why they're shooting so poorly from 3 is because 3 of their best 3-point shooters, or at least 2 of them, were out yesterday. So that's obviously Darius Garland. Not only is he a great creator for others, he's a 40% three-point shooter. When you're missing a 40% three-point shooter in Darius Garland, and then you're also without DeAndre Hunter last night, who's a 42% three-point shooter, it's going to be rough to make threes at a normal clip. And that's a big reason why they shot 28% from three last night. Also, Evan Mobley, who you could make a claim was their second best player. He's going to be on an all-NBA team. He was that good. He's shooting 37% from three on over 3 attempts per game. He's not, that was kind of one of the downsides of his game, and you didn't see his shot develop. This year, he became more comfortable, not a great three-point shooter, but 37% is 37% on over 3 attempts per game. It's not like he's taking 1.5 attempts a game. So he became a better three-point shooter. He also creates looks for other guys. Like Evan Mobley out of the short roll is what creates looks for other guys. They've done such a good job of the Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley pick and roll, feeding Evan Mobley in the short roll, 4-on-3 advantageous situations. He's creating looks and three-point shots for other guys because the defense has to collapse. Without him or Darius Garland, you're missing good three-point shooters and you're missing three-point creation because those guys create shots for others. So it makes sense why those teams or why the Cavs are shooting poorly from three those first 2 games. So the question, back to the original question I posed, can the Cavs come back? I don't know, because the answer is I don't know, because I don't know those guys' health status. Like if if Darius Garland and Evan Mobley come back and DeAndre Hunter come back, and those 3 guys are even at 80% health, the Cavs are the better team. And the Cavs can come back in the series even when they're facing a 2-0 deficit and they lost those 2 games at home. If those guys can come back 80% healthy, the Cavs can still win this series. Do I think they're going to come back, all of them, or even one of them? Probably not at this point. So it looks like the Pacers, once again, are a really good basketball team, have benefited from absurd luck, and are probably moving back to their second straight conference finals appearance. All right, moving on to the other game last night and the other storyline. Some news just broke regarding Steph Curry. Some news that broke regarding Steph Curry was that he is going to be out at least a week. A hamstring sprain, I believe Shams tweeted. So he's going to be out at least a week. Not great news for the Warriors, who, even though they escaped last night and take a 1-0 series lead, they're going to be without Steph Curry for at least game 2, probably beyond that. So the story last night was the Wolves couldn't score the basketball. Let me pull up the final score here. 99-88. A playoff game, any game where neither team scored 100 points is pretty rare. So 99-88, the Warriors beat the Wolves, and the Wolves just couldn't score. They shot 0 for 15 from 3 in the first half. Draymond, for the Warriors, hit 4 threes. He's a 32% three-point shooter. He somehow, when Steph went out, turned into Steph Curry. He's only done that 3 other times this season when he's made at least 4 threes. So, yes, the Wolves have a problem scoring the basketball. This isn't the Lakers defense. Like, the Lakers defense had leaky perimeter defenders with Austin Reeves, obviously Luka Doncic, and they had bad rim protection. So the Wolves could score easily, and their half-court offense wasn't even great against the Lakers, but they had easier matchups to pick on. The Warriors, that's not the case. The Warriors have way better perimeter defenders, and they when you don't have a center in like a big center in the game and you play small with Draymond playing the 5, you protect the rim by committee. So the Warriors actually have great rim protection, even though they don't have a traditional big center back there who you'd think as a rim protector. Draymond Green, for his height and his size, is an excellent rim protector. But when you also protect the rim by committee and you're collapsing into the paint, making it really difficult for Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle to get clean looks at the rim, that's rim protection by committee. And that's what the Warriors did an awesome job of last night, where they made it really difficult for the Wolves to get downhill and then score at the rim. And this Wolves half-court offense just looked bad. And it would be a concern moving forward for me, absolutely, if the Warriors had Steph Curry. Without Steph Curry, I don't think there's going to be a single game where the Warriors score 100 points. And look, the Wolves have their offensive woes for sure. They can figure out enough to score just enough to beat a team that will barely crack 100 points. Like, everyone's like, Jimmy Butler is going to have to carry the load. First off, Jimmy Butler hasn't looked completely healthy since that pelvic bone injury that he suffered in that first series against the Rockets. And second off, Jimmy Butler, when he is great, he's not just creating shots for himself, but he's creating for others. you need great shooting around Jimmy Butler. When you think about that Heat run, where the Heat made that miraculous run to the finals a couple years ago, Jimmy Butler, he was phenomenal. His point totals, he was creating shots for other guys because they had great shooters on the floor. Max Strus, Gabe Vincent was hot from three that series, that entire playoff run. Caleb Martin, those were shooters surrounding Jimmy Butler. So that was a perfect team for Jimmy Butler. First off, I don't think Jimmy Butler is a player he was a couple years ago. I think he's declined physically and athletically. Secondly, the Warriors don't have that shooting. Like the gravity of Steph Curry makes the Wolves defense makes the Warriors so much easier to guard for that Wolves defense. That's the gravity of Steph Curry. Everyone just loves to use the term the gravity of Curry, and it's become a cliche around the NBA, but it's really true. Like when you think about just him as a screener, how much attention he commands. When he crosses half court, him off the ball, what the Rockets were doing, just doubling him off the ball. He's the greatest shooter of all time. So he does demand that much defensive attention, and you kind of have to bring your attention away from some other players. When he's off the floor, the Warriors are cooked. I mean, Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, like unless Draymond Green gets Steph Curry's powers and starts becoming like a 45% shooter who can shoot off the dribble all of a sudden, which I don't see happening, it's hard to imagine that the Warriors are going to score enough to escape this series without Curry. And maybe Curry comes back in game 6 or game 7 if he's going to be out at least a week. Obviously, who knows how his hamstring will progress, but I think that'll be too late. I think if he comes back game 6 or game 7, that'll be too late. The Warriors just do not have enough to score. And I think that you see it with a price adjustment on these series lines where the Wolves started out as a favorite. The Warriors won game 1. Typically, if a team wins game 1, that when it's a pretty close series line, that will adjust because the Wolves were only like minus 155 coming into the series. That'll adjust if the Warriors win game 1, which they did, especially on the road. But Curry's injury is telling you everything you know with this line. Where the Wolves their line didn't go down, it didn't shorten, or excuse me, didn't lengthen, it actually shortened. Where the Wolves are now minus 200 to win the series. And that tells you what you need to know about the Warriors without Steph Curry, where they just don't have enough creation, don't have enough shooting, they don't have enough scoring. So it doesn't really even matter what the Warriors do defensively, which they've done a great job defensively, which is what I'm saying. They've done a great job defensively and rim protection by committee. It doesn't matter what the Warriors do defensively if they can't score enough. And like I said, without Curry, I can't see the Warriors scoring more than 100 in any game this series without Curry. So this seems to be like the Wolves are moving on again. All right, let's hit on the 2 games tonight in the 2 other series, one out west, one out east. And the biggest game, and really the game that's got the most attention, is Celtics-Knicks, which is a fascinating series based off the game 1. Celtics obviously were massive favorites coming into the series, still big favorites to win. And I don't think people's minds have changed that much. But the conversation from Celtics-Knicks game 1 has devolved into what an open 3 is or not. Like what classifies as an open 3, what classifies as a good 3. Let me just say this about the Celtics offense and their 3-point volume in that first game. My problem is not with the 3-point volume. The Celtics are going to shoot a ton of threes. That's been their identity for 2 seasons now. And they can have that identity because they almost always implore 5 shooters on the floor. And when not only do they have 5 shooters on the floor, they also have 5 guys who can create off the dribble, who can create advantages, get in the lane. Not always 5 guys, but at least 3 or 4. Like that personnel creates their offense where they can shoot a ton of threes. My problem isn't with the 3-point volume. It's how they're generating threes. It's how they're generating their threes. And they generate threes by running a ton of pick and roll, usually getting 2 on the ball, and creating advantageous situations where it's 4-on-3 and you get the defense in rotation. Or they run a ton of pick and roll, you get the switch, and that's what the Knicks are doing. You get the switch, and they have so many different guys who can beat you off the dribble, whether it's Jaylen Brown or Tatum, obviously the go-tos, but even Derek White, Drew Holiday, even a Peyton Pritchard. And you can get in the lane by beating your defender one-on-one off the dribble, force the defense collapse, put them in rotation, and then the when the defense is flying in rotation, closing out, that's how you create good 3-point opportunities. That's how you generate good threes. So I don't care that they shot 63s and that they missed 45. Both records, the most missed threes, the most 3-point attempts in NBA history. I don't care about that. I care about how they're generating the threes. And let me just say this. So I'm pro analytics. I'm pro analytics. Like as someone who covers and follows the sport, like it is in teams use analytics and teams rely on analytics. So as someone who covers and follows the sport, it's important to understand analytics. So I am pro analytics. Over the last couple of years, I've really dove deep into analytics, how they're used, why teams use them, when they use them, all that stuff. Throw these analytics that are telling me the Celtics got good shots out the door. Tim Legler made this point, and it is so true. Do not tell me that 25 of those three-point attempts from the Celtics, 60 that they attempted, were unguarded catch-and-shoot shots that were open. No, they weren't. I watched that Celtics game live. I rewatched the fourth quarter. I rewatched every single three-point attempt from that game and then from that fourth quarter. I'm talking about that fourth quarter. I don't care what classifies as an open shot according to second spectrum. I watched those three-pointers, and I'll tell you the three-pointers that I calculated in the second half. They shot 15 three-pointers in the fourth quarter. Celtics only made 2 in that fourth quarter. 3, maybe 4 of those, you could argue, were open shots or semi-open shots. The others were contested. These were bad shots that the Celtics were taking. They were bad shots. And you know why? It's because they weren't generating threes like they normally do through drive and kick. And that's how the Celtics get good looks, is getting in the lane, driving and kicking, getting the defensive rotation, moving the ball. That's how they get good shots. So I don't care about the volume. Go out and shoot 60 three-pointers tonight. But you have to attack the rim. You have to attack the rim in order to get good three-point opportunities. It all starts with your downhill drive, your downhill penetration. That's how you get That's how you get good three-point looks. And the Celtics weren't doing that. 39 of their 47 shots in the second half and overtime were threes. Late in that fourth quarter, really in crunch time, they barely even stepped in front of the three-point line. And it all starts with Jason Tatum, who I thought had one of his worst games I've seen in the playoffs in a long time. This is a guy who probably is coming off of his best regular season since he came into the league. He's played a ton of playoff games. I believe the number is 123 playoff games, which is unprecedented for a player his age and a guy who hasn't been in the league. I mean, now he's been in the league like 7-8 years, but not a guy who's been in the league all that long. 123 playoff games is a ton. That was one of the worst I've seen him play since he took that superstar step over the last 3 to 4 seasons. And it's because of how much he's settled. Like, let's talk about the Knicks' defensive game plan for a second. So the Knicks during the regular season never switched. They were really reluctant on switching, especially with ball screens that involved Karl-Anthony Towns or Mitchell Robinson, and they're big. They put Karl-Anthony Towns in drop all the time, especially when they played the Celtics in those regular season matchups. That was an adjustment Thibs made coming to this playoff series. Karl-Anthony Towns was switching all ball screens. The Knicks were switching all ball screens that involved pretty much everybody except Jalen Brunson. And Jalen Brunson was usually hedging and then recovering and coming back. And there was a few times Brunson got caught in the switch. But everyone else were switching their ball screens. The Celtics should want that. The Knicks don't have a sustainable defense to switch ball screens. They have 2 defensive liabilities on the floor in Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. Like the Celtics, everyone and their mother watching that game knew what the Celtics' plan was. We were going to put Jalen Brunson in action. We were going to put Karl-Anthony Towns in action, whatever it takes. A regular ball screen, a dribble drive, a double drag, where both those guys' defenders are setting the screen. It doesn't matter. We're going to put Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns in action. And when you get those guys in action, you're going to generate mismatches. And the Celtics did that, and they did that well. The problem was they didn't take advantage of those mismatches, especially Jason Tatum. He settled time and time again, when it was Brunson on him, when it was Mitchell Robinson on him, when it was Cat on him. He settled for step back, awful shots. Awful shots. It's not just that Jason Tatum can get to the rim and go by those guys. But when he beats the first layer of defense, you're going to see the defense collapse. You're going to see help. That's when you swing to your shooters. You get the defense in rotation, which I keep saying, and I can't hammer enough. That's where the Celtics are at their best, shooting threes, when they have the defense in rotation. You do that through beating your guy through mismatches, driving and kicking. Then the defense gets in rotation. You keep swinging the ball. You keep driving and kicking. And then you generate open, clean three-point looks. Down the stretch of that game, the Celtics just didn't do that. So when you look ahead to game two tonight, the Celtics are a 10.5-point favorite. Yes, the Celtics aren't going to shoot 25% from three again, but I don't care about the three-point percentage. I don't care about the three-point volume. I care, how are they generating these looks? When they get these mismatches, because I expect Karl-Anthony Towns to be switching ball screens again. When they get these mismatches, are they going to attack, force OG Anunoby and Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges to help on those guys and attack those mismatches to create better looks? That's the adjustments. It's attacking switches and using those switches to your advantage to attack the rim and put the Knicks in rotation. That's how you generate threes. And also, get into your offense earlier. Like, when you know that Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, all you're doing is putting them in action, why are you waiting till 14, 12 seconds left on the shot clock to do it? Like, get in those actions earlier. And so, because even if those break down, you're going to have more time on the shot clock, and you're not going to take a shot with little time on the shot clock left. So that's the big adjustment for me. It's simply just, this Knicks defense it's not sustainable for them to switch all the time. All they're going to do is put Karl-Anthony Towns, who got in foul trouble last game too early, which is part of the reasons and reasons you want to attack him, and putting Jalen Brunson in action. Because OG Anunoby was phenomenal as a defender. As the primary defender, he held the Celtics starters to 1 for 15 shooting in game one. That's awesome. Mikal Bridges made defensive play after defensive play down the stretch. He was great. The problem was, and Josh Hart was phenomenal too. Like, those guys were just rotating and flying all over the place. But good defenses, you have to be on a string 1 through 5. Like, you just have to have 5 guys who can defend. If you have 2 guys that can be picked on, which teams in the Celtics are better at taking advantage of mismatches than anyone throughout the season, the Knicks have 2 guys that can be picked on. So they have those mismatch opportunities. The problem is, they just didn't take advantage of them. They didn't take advantage of those switches. They were settling too much. Jason Tatum was settling late in that game, late in the fourth quarter, late in overtime. There was a play with 12. It was in the end of regulation. Jason Tatum gets a switch onto Mitchell Robinson. You have an open lane. You have Mitchell Robinson. That's the matchup you want. There's a reason you had Mitchell Robinson's man come screen, because you wanted the switch on Mitchell Robinson, not so you could take a BS step back jumper, so you could get to the lane and force the defense collapse and kick. Or if no one collapses, no one helps, you get to the lane. The Celtics have to do a better job. And that's really the only adjustment. I mean, of course, they'll make other adjustments, and the Knicks will adjust too. But it's they're going to shoot better from 3 when they attack these mismatches and don't settle. Like, your offense can't just be settling for step back threes. That's not sustainable. So who do I think is going to win tonight? I think the Celtics are going to win tonight, but I think it's still going to be a competitive game. The Knicks really were competitive through that first quarter and a half until they went to foul trouble. And then late in that second quarter and into the beginning part of the third quarter is when the Celtics blew up that 20-point lead. And then, of course, the Celtics' awful shot selection is what allowed the Knicks to come back. So I think that the Celtics, I think the Knicks are actually going to keep this game close. The Knicks need better production from their bench. Something I'm watching, I would consider taking Jalen Brunson's unders, particularly his under points. He was 9 for 23 in game 1. And the Pistons did a good job of him with their physicality, but physicality doesn't bother Brunson that much because he's a really physical player too. Like, Brunson's a really physical player. What bothers Brunson is a lot of length and just length and height and athleticism. And the Celtics defense has that. Like, whether it's Tatum guarding him, whether it's Brown, whether it's Drew Holiday, who we know what he is as a defender, or a guy like Derek White. Like, the Celtics have the length to bother Jalen Brunson. And you saw that when he was 9 for 23 in that first game. And, of course, Jalen Brunson is just heroic in the fourth quarter. And even though he wasn't great in that overtime period and he missed that bunny, which I know he would have been kicking himself if the Knicks ended up losing that game in overtime, because that's a shot he makes like 90 times out of 100. That little bunny on the backdoor cut that Karl-Anthony Towns hit him to end regulation that Jalen Brunson just missed. But other than some great moments late in that fourth quarter, I didn't think Brunson had a good game. He didn't shoot the ball well. The Celtics' length bothered him a lot. So I think you're going to see that continue. So 10.5 is a lot of points. So I would lean the Knicks just because of that. But I think this is a game the Celtics control throughout. And I'd be shocked if the Knicks come out on top. All right. Last game here we're going to touch on is the game tonight. Game 1 was Monday night, and that's between the Thunder and the Nuggets. Another 10.5 point spread. Let me tell you, Monday night was the first night in playoff history where 2 teams won as 9+ point underdogs. That was impressive. So are we going to see more? And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the Warriors also won last outright as underdogs too. So underdogs in the second round are 5 for 5 outright. 5 for 5 underdogs have won outright. Of course, they've all covered because they've been underdogs. That's pretty impressive. And a lot of those dogs were massive too. Some 9.5, 10.5 point spreads. Is that going to continue tonight? Not entirely convinced. I definitely don't think outright. I think the dogs could cover. But here we have Nuggets plus 10.5 against the Thunder. And just to go back to game 1 real quick, 2 things that plagued the Thunder. And it was the same 2 things that plagued the Thunder last year throughout the playoff run and even during the regular season, but it really became a problem in the playoff run where they lost to the Mavs in the second round. And that's number 1, rebounding, and number 2, secondary scoring. Last year, the Thunder were the 4th worst defensive rebounding team in the entire NBA. So what do? You go and address that in the offseason, and that's exactly what they did. They got Isaiah Hartenstein, who is a great rebounder and a physical presence down low as a center. And it actually worked. Like when you look at the second half of the season post All-Star break, the Thunder were a top 10 team in opponent offensive rebounding rate, meaning they did not let teams dominate them on the offensive glass. And so they worked. Like Isaiah Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren combination as a big front court line was working throughout the season. In the second half, when those guys started playing together, because each suffered injuries where they weren't really on the court together that much through the first half of the season. The problem was in game 1, they didn't show up, particularly Chet Holmgren as a rebounder. The man had 6 rebounds. And we're going to talk about how Chet really struggled and needs to step up, but he had 6 rebounds in game 1. That's not acceptable. Isaiah Hartenstein did not do a good enough job on Jokic, but also just as a rebounder. Jokic went off for 42 points. The Nuggets as a team out-rebounded the Thunder by 20 rebounds. The Nuggets grabbed 21 offensive rebounds, and Jokic himself had 22 offensive rebounds. And Jokic is a phenomenal rebounder, and it's kind of course, he has the size and the strength. We know that. But it's surprising because he's not the most athletic guy. But he's a great offensive rebounder, too. And Dennis Rodman, who is one of the best offensive rebounders in NBA history, Dennis Rodman used to always talk about, yeah, he's athletic, and that's why he gets a lot of rebounds. But he studied the art of rebounding. He would talk about rebounding as an art, especially offensive rebounding as an art. And it's studying about guys' shot tendencies, where their misses go off. Of course, misses generally go off to the opposite side of the rim or the opposite side of the shooter as is, but he would study that stuff. So offensive rebounding is a lot of cerebral too. Jokic is one of the smarter players in the NBA, if not the smartest player in the NBA. He uses his in basketball IQ to rebound the basketball at an effective rate, especially offensively. When he's not the most athletic guy, because he's just not the most athletic guy, but he's a brilliant offensive rebounder, and he had 22 boards. So that's the biggest adjustment. Is it has to be a gang rebounding effort, yes, but Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein need to be better on the boards. They just need to be. You can't let the Nuggets get that many offensive rebounds and second chance opportunities. So that's the biggest thing. And the other thing is I want to see them throw more help at Jokic. Like, you got to make these other guys beat you. Michael Porter Jr. is hurt. You can see it on his shoulder with what he's wearing. He's not been playing particularly well. Russell Westbrook, to his credit, has been awesome. He's finally, post OKC, found a team that he's accepted his role and just fitting in. And he's obviously making threes at a higher rate than you'd expect from a Russell Westbrook. But I've been really impressed with Russell Westbrook this postseason. But again, he's a hit or miss guy. Like, you could have a 19-point performance from Russell Westbrook like you did the other night, or you could have a 4-point performance where he's 1 for 7 from 3. So he's a hit or miss guy. Jamal Murray at this point is a hit or miss guy. You have to make the other Nuggets other than Jokic beat you, and that's sending more help at at Jokic. Like, they were guarding him. I expected them to really implement what the Wolves did against the Nuggets last year, where the Wolves had Karl-Anthony Towns guard Jokic and Rudy Gobert kind of acted as a floater, but was almost always in his vicinity. The Thunder didn't really do that. There was moments where they did it, but they weren't doing it a ton in that game one. What they were really doing was just having more single coverage, and I thought they would, or keeping Jokic in single coverage against an Isaiah Hartenstein or against a Chet. That's not the answer. Jokic just overpowered those guys physically. You have to send a ton of help because you have a big front line with Chet and with Isaiah Hartenstein, but you have to send a ton of help at Jokic and make the Nuggets others beat you. The other problem for the Thunder, other than rebounding game one, was their secondary scoring. Like, we know Shea wasn't incredibly efficient. I didn't think he had his best game, but we know you're going to get a 30-plus from Shea on a nightly basis. You know what he's going to do, getting to the free throw line, operating in the mid-range, creating for others, all that, which is why Shea is on his way to the MVP. Excuse me. What you don't know you're going to get from the Thunder is who else is going to step up for the Thunder, and that starts with Jalen Williams, and that goes back to last year's playoff run when Jalen Williams really struggled. I've said the Thunder winning the championship before the season, and I've maintained that throughout this entire season. When people have asked me how are the Thunder not going to win the championship, I said they're not going to get enough secondary scoring from their co-star, from Shea's co-stars, and that starts with Jalen Williams because he was bad against the Mavs in the second round last year. Shot 42% from three. 42% from the field. Just inefficient. And that inefficiency showed up in game one. He was 5 for 20 from the field, only 16 points. That's not good enough from your second best player, from your secondary score. And yeah, the Thunder are really deep. You got guys like Lou Dort, who can make 6 threes on any given night. Isaiah Joe, who can make 6, 7 threes on any given night. Aaron Wiggins, at some point this series, is going to have a 20-plus point performance off the bench for them. Alex Caruso was phenomenal. I mean, you wasted an amazing Alex Caruso game in game one on both ends of the floor. So we know what those guys are defensively. The problem for me is you need Jalen Williams to step up and you need Chet Holmgren to step up. Those are your second and third best players. Those are the guys that are your secondary creators. Because Lou Dort, he's not a creator. Like, you create shots for Lou Dort. He's not a table setter. You set the table for Lou Dort, for an Isaiah Joe, for guys like that. Jalen Williams has to give some relief to Shea, and he has to be better. It's as simple as that. And Chet Holmgren has to be better, not just as a rebounder, but as a scorer. 6 rebounds is unacceptable when your team gets out-rebounded by 20. He has to be better on the glass. He also has to be just more clutch. Like, where are your cojones, Chet Holmgren? You went to the free throw line, and everyone's talking about the Aaron Gordon buzzer beater or the game-winning shot. It was a phenomenal shot by Aaron Gordon. The only reason Aaron Gordon had an opportunity to win the game on that three-pointer is because Chet Holmgren went to the line the play before and missed 2 free throws. Not one. He missed 2 free throws at the line. A 75% free throw shooter this season. Missed 2 free throws at the line. That's pressure. That's the pressure getting to him in a big moment, in a big spot. Even though the Thunder were at home, it wasn't like it was a road atmosphere. Chet Holmgren has to be better as a rebounder. You have to make clutch plays like making your free throws, and he has to be better as a scorer. Like, you're going to need him to make threes. He didn't make a 3 in game 1. You're going to need Chet Holmgren for the Thunder to advance. So yeah, like, everyone's like, Aaron Gordon shot phenomenal. We love that moment, but let's not forget why they got that moment. It was because Chet Holmgren missed 2 free throws with just a few seconds left. And it's not only that you miss 2 free throws, it's that off of a miss, you have to play. It's more, you're playing defensive transition, or you're playing transition defense. And that's why Russell Westbrook was able to get in the lane off a jumbled defense. It was a chaotic defensive possession for the Thunder because it was off a missed free throw. So Russell Westbrook takes advantage of a jumbled defense, gets in the lane, kicks it out to a relatively open Aaron Gordon, who knocks down the game winner. If you make even the second free throw, and you take a 2-point lead in that game, you can set up your defense off of a make easier. And you don't have that jumbled defense opportunity where Russ Westbrook takes advantage of it and gets an open shot. So that loss, it wasn't just on Chet Holmgren, but his rebounding impact, which was non-existent, and those missed free throws. Shea needs help. Like, Shea is the MVP. I wouldn't vote for him. If I had a vote, my vote would have gone to Jokic. And I'm not using playoff results because of that. I'm saying about his regular season impact on that team. Regardless, though, Shea is going to an MVP. He's the MVP of the league. He needs help. He needs help from Jalen Williams. You can't shoot 5 for 20. Chet Holmgren, you need to grab 6 boards. Like, you are a big reason why the Nuggets were out-rebounded the Thunder by 20. You can't miss those free throws. Shea needs help. So those are the two things I'm looking for tonight. It's where's the secondary scoring coming from with the Thunder, and how does the rebounding battle match up? And are they throwing more help at Jokic where he doesn't go for a 42 and 22 performance? I'd like to lean Thunder minus 10.5 based off those adjustments. I don't think the Nuggets are going to win this series, partly because of fatigue still. I think the Thunder are the better team. They're going to figure it out. Again, a young team. They're going through the playoff scars, but you can go through your playoff scars and still come out on the other end as you figure it out in a competitive series. So I think that game one will be a learning experience for them. The Nuggets are also exhausted. They didn't look it in game one. That game after game one on Monday night, that was their 8th game in 16 days. Their next 5 games, if the series goes that far, will be off of 1 day of rest. There's only 1 day of rest in between every single game this series until a potential game 7, which they would have 2 days of rest before. That is not a lot of rest. They just played a hard-fought 7-game series over the Clippers. 1 day in between every single game. They're going to, for lack of a better term, crash out. That's not how the kids use it these days. But they're going to crash out and just become exhausted and fatigued. And it's going to catch up with the Nuggets at some point. And I could see it being tonight. And I could see the Thunder kind of just rolling. And I still think this will be a competitive series, but you're going to see exhaustion kick in. So I would lay the 10.5 with the Thunder. Yeah, that's all we got for you. That's all we got for you on Fox Sports, the game of the iHeartRadio. Went 46 minutes. 46 minutes of straight hoop talk, straight hoop knowledge, breaking down last night's game, previewing tonight's games, because these playoffs have been incredible. Thank you, Adam Silver, for this parody, for these incredible playoffs. Every game is must-see TV. Used to be, maybe you don't have to watch this game. This will be a 20-point blowout. These have been the best playoffs. And all these people who chirp me that college basketball or some of these other sports are better because the postseason's better, not anymore. There's not a better postseason than the NBA right now because these matchups have been phenomenal. You don't know who's going to win on a night-to-night basis, on a series basis. To win the NBA championship is not a foregone conclusion anymore. So this has been awesome. These entire playoffs have been awesome, and we're going to continue to break it down right here on Fox Sports, The Gambler, on Picks and Roll with iHeartRadio. We're probably not going to go solo too much anymore. I'll be right alongside my guy, Sean Brace, throughout the week on Mondays. I'll be right alongside my guy, Sean Bernard. So we're not going to be solo too much anymore, but we gave you 47 minutes of straight hoop talk. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon.